What number?
For
Pontoon guy?
the polisher guy. He was supposed to send that to
I
me.
thought. Did I drop the ball on you?
Oh, yes, you did.
I will get it to you tonight. I promise. So where is Mr. Krug?
He's upstairs talking to the police.
Oh, okay.
Robin just left for it, so he is here. He will be on site.
Time flies when you're having fun.
He's got a text phone.
Tom, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started here.
All right.
Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everyone. Is that too loud? No. Okay. It's now 6:31 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this 21st day of 2024. 21st day of May 2024. I ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead us?
Thank you. Lord, we're meeting here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. We also thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, Mark, I appreciate that. I guess I'll refer to you, Tom. Will you please call the roll?
Sure. Lorraine,
Present.
Krug is absent, but I think he's on his way. Tucker's absent. Gopal? Here. Patrick?
Present.
Kessler?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
5 members present, correct.
All right, thanks, Tom. I'd like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, Operations Manager Tom Broker, our Zoning Administrator Mike Deem, and our Township Assessor Julio Wilson are also present. Additionally, our Township officials, are they? Oh, Melissa's here. Township Engineers Alan and Melissa Lawrence are also present virtually. Tom, will you detail the procedures for attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes, to members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised the meeting is being recorded to be shown on Public Access TV, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, therefore all public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
All right, thanks, Tom. Moving on to the first order of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, I vote yes. Patrick?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Gopal?
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Lorraine?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, agenda stands approved as presented. Next order of business is the meeting. Any further discussion?
Yes.
All right. Moving on. Next business order is reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next business order, which is communications. We have none. And moving on to, this is the master plan adoption. This is the adoption of the 2024 Fenton Township Master Plan. We have our zoning administrator, Mike Deem, and also we have Emil that is here with us from, he's a principal with the Envision Group LLC. Good
Thank
evening.
you, Mr. Supervisor. Appreciate it.
As the supervisor said, I am principal and project manager on the master plan update. We were fortunate enough to be selected back in the fall of 2022 to do the 5-year update of the master plan. So I just have a few slides here I'll briefly step through if that's okay, just to kind of recap the process. If anyone in the audience or here was here for Planning Commission a couple weeks ago, I apologize. This is the same slideshow, but we'll be brief.
No problem.
So just what I'm going to cover, just some highlights of the plan based on our February 8th Planning Commission review of the document. That review and revision started the 63-day review period required by the state to have public notice and to let regional partners comment on the plan. So I'll step through a few land use updates. First of these is what you see in the pinkish purple color, that outline. Previously, we had talked about the need for an urban service boundary for utility extensions. Eventually, we decided to change that. The Planning Commission said, we understand there's some water service issues in some areas as far as potable water goes, so we don't want to restrict anybody from public health, welfare, and safety of getting water service where they need it. So we revised that to be a sewer service boundary. So the areas outside that boundary in the more rural parts of the township, particularly that northwest corner, would remain unserved long-term. We also had some updates based on the Thompson Road corridor plan, so those 2022 revisions to land use are all incorporated in the areas you see in blue and brown around the Thompson Road interchange. There were some minor changes, things like tiny homes, which were mentioned in the last plan. Those were deleted reference to. People just felt that was a little too progressive for what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So this was an area of a lot of discussion, the Silver Lake Road corridor. What you see in gray towards the bottom, and not the gray to the north, that's Linden, but that's the airport. Just to the north of that, between that and Silver Lake Road, that orange is recommended for higher density residential. And as you go east of there along Silver Lake Road, you'll see the tannish color, that is medium density residential as a future land use. Red on the north side was recommended for community commercial, and we had a lot of discussion on this last meeting. Just to confirm, that doesn't mean like big box retail. We're talking about things that serve the residents of the township. So maybe a small strip plaza with a couple, a Jimmy John's or something to that effect. Next slide, please. So one thing that came up in discussion was a concept plan at Planning Commission on the 9th regarding a proposal for the barn parcel, and the developer was interested in making that mixed use on the future land use map. After a lot of careful deliberation and public comment, Planning Commission recommended that stay future land use for medium density residential. So that should lower some blood pressure if anybody's here for that reason. But that was the spirited discussion last time. So just wanted to show for illustration where that proposal is. Again, future land use recommendation in that area remains medium density residential. Next slide, please. Some other topics that were incorporated at the suggestion of the planning and zoning director here. Mike really wanted us to be able to compete for any kind of funds that might come forward through the infrastructure law or any other funding source at the state or regional level. One thing was this idea of complete streets, to make sure we have the latest and greatest lingo. So that's a fancy way of saying bicycles and pedestrians. Ties in with the whole pathway effort, being a livable, walkable community. EV charging, definitely some interest in this, given that we're along the 23 interstate look-alike corridor, but not an interstate. And then alternative energy, just having some provisions in there for small-scale solar. We know we're not going to have utility-scale solar, but maybe something like solar panels on a rooftop or a small array for a business. Those references have been added to the plan. Projects underway, the LAFF Pathway Project and the Fenton Road corridor being the next priority was highlighted here again, just so we can point to the plan to have all the points we can get on the funding application and help our regional partners. The future headquarters for the recreation agency at Thompson Road Dog Park, potential for a new fire station and or a community park along township owned property on Silver Lake Road, and then just the continuing investments of MDOT around the Thompson Road interchange, which you've proactively secured a lot of money for successfully, and just to keep growing that effort. One clarification just for transparency was the addition of a future land use table. This is similar to kind of definitions that you'd see for zoning. For whatever reason, it wasn't in the last plan, so just to make this more understandable so people know what medium-density residential, things like that actually mean, that was added. Comments from regional partners, and I apologize, this text got skewed a little bit, but there was a minor comment on clarification regarding the river trail, water trail, that it has a national and state designation, so just minor point of clarification that's been updated. So next steps, on the 9th, this was adopted by the Planning Commission, and it's for you today here to adopt if you see fit. Any questions from the board?
Public participation is in our planning, effort decisions the Planning Commission made, especially on the south side of Silver Lake Road, right? We're maintaining a medium-density residential classification for Hagerman's Old Barn. You know, and then also considering, you know, what has changed over the last 5 years, 10 years, and what are things going to look like in the future? And, you know, why are we focusing on Silver Lake Road for this master plan? You know, you look at what's available on Silver Lake Road, right? We have a pathway now, right? Water is available, sewer is available. It's a thoroughfare and has access to 23. When you start looking at some of those factors, you start looking at how land use, you know, works with those. And that was part of the major decision about identifying high-density residential property along Silver Lake Road. You know, we went through the whole Thompson Road corridor process, right? And so those comments and suggestions and that plan have been incorporated into this. Emerging topics are important, right? One of the topics that was mentioned in there are EV stations. Well, we have an application for a gas station, and, you know, they are putting electric charging stations in as part of it because that's what our plans and documents are stating are needed. So it's already working, right? And we haven't even fully adopted it yet, right? It's been adopted by the Planning Commission, and now it's up for you to review tonight. I'm here to answer any additional questions you guys might have. But this has been a long process, right? We've done our best to include the public. You know, we've utilized all the means of public notice available to us, right? We've put information on the website, sent out information through social media, mailed out notices, put notices in the paper, and here we are tonight.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to ask you to stand if you just stay there. Well, you know what? Go ahead. We can bring you up because there's probably going to be a lot of conversation amongst the board. All right. Questions and comments from the board?
Okay.
Bob?
I'll apologize to anybody that I step on their toes. It saves me the time of apologizing each time. First, I'm still very negative on the path that Southern Lakes and the state bank feels is so important. I was there the other night, and a lady said, "This is real good. I hear there's a shuttle that's going to bring us on a path out here." I said, "No." I said, "You're bringing your dog for exercise?" "Yep." And she lives just inside the city of Fenton. And I said, "You'll have to walk from the city of Fenton 2.5 miles to Thompson Road, up Thompson Road to the dog park so your dog can get exercise. And then you're going to turn around and walk all that mileage back." I said, "You're either going to have a dead dog or the strongest, happiest dog in the world. It's a waste of time, in my humble opinion. And I don't know why we're still part of it." Okay, see, we're talking about the dog park. Giving our control of the property at the dog park to Southern Lakes is ridiculous. Personal opinion. Thompson Road, we don't need gas stations. We don't need EV plug-ins. We don't need electric vehicles. But here again, the density of the homes being built currently is well exceeds what I moved to Fenton Township for. If you want to have a great experience, try to take your little one to West Shore, Torrey Hill, any morning. And if you miss the morning, come back and try to pick them up. You're out in the street. People are honking. It's ridiculous. Our road structure does not equate to the demand, and we're putting massive amounts of new traffic, especially on Laring, Torrey, Thompson, even Silver Lake. You've got, it just, I'm trying to keep it clean. It's just asinine. Dad, we're keeping it clean. It's asinine that we spent all this time, and the only people that are going to get rich off this are non-residents. No, I won't even say the next one. But we've got to step back. A good experience is the water that was supposed to be done eons ago. You can't even get down, can't get up Torrey Road. And the fiasco that the county has made of that project, based on what I was told when I supported. And I still support the idea of getting it to the schools, because those kids don't need bad water there. But beyond that, I think we got to step back and say to our consultants and our people working on this, you did good, but it's not for Fenton Township. And I'm sure there's going to be others come up later.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I guess this is sort of related to that last point. We have a lot of land that's zoned agricultural right now, and I think most of us intend and expect for it to be zoned agricultural for the foreseeable future. And the future land use map doesn't have any land that's zoned agriculture. I know this is a point that's been brought up by our township attorney. I don't really understand why we wouldn't have any land indicated as agricultural on our future land use map.
Mike, I did a lot of research on this also, and not that I would like to disagree with our attorney, but Mike does a good job of explaining it, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in the master plan that way for over 20 years. Low density. I think when you think of Fenton Township, you don't think of a farming community, right? I think you think of it as a rural community. And when you look at the types of classifications we have, low density, right, is intended to be that rural community, and agricultural uses would fall under low density residential. The reason why, one reason why you wouldn't have a specific agriculture classification, I think that if you look at the township where actual agriculture, is going on, you'd be very limited as to where that would be an appropriate classification versus the low density, residential, which again, right, has that rural feel to it. There's much more appropriate property that some may be farmed, some may have hobby farms or having some sort of agricultural activities going on there, but would be more compatible with a low density classification. It's been in that way, it was definitely in the 2018, right? I looked through going back to the 2002 master plan, right? And agriculture had been removed from that one. I hadn't gone back farther than that. I mean, it's 20 years, right? It's a philosophy that the township has taken, that agricultural uses fall under the low-density category under the future land use plan. Right? The future land use plan is a guide, right? We have the zoning ordinance, which is what the rules are. You know, right now, 25% of the township as a whole, right, is zoned ag. I mean, if you remove the lakes, it's over 30%. So agricultural exists in the township, right? That's not going away. The low density is with the way how agriculture works in the township, the low density classification is the appropriate classification to have.
I guess, so I hear you. I guess it would just, we have a definition of low density residential now that we're including this table. It doesn't mention anything about agriculture. And it seems to me that, you know, every time there's someone here for rezoning, we're going to look to our land use map. We're going to say our future land use map. We're going to say this isn't in accordance, or, you know, you're rezoning to more residential is in accordance with the master plan because it's zoned, or because on the master plan it's either low density residential or medium density residential, and then we're going to rezone it. And so if we have concerns about the township becoming more and more developed and less agricultural, and we want to maintain the agricultural character of the land, I don't understand why we wouldn't have some of the land that's already zoned agricultural on our map is continuing to be zoned agricultural.
Well, so again, right, we're talking about two different things. Right? We're talking about the future
Right.
land use plan, and then we're talking about the zoning ordinance.
Right, but when we have zoning, rezoning requests, when we write our zoning ordinance, we're trying to, the master plan is the vision.
Sure.
And we're trying to have our vision line up with our zoning, I would think. When people go to buy land, if they're looking to buy land in agricultural, maybe it's important to them that it stays agriculture and doesn't become residential. They're going to have the expectation based on what future land use map that we set, that's eventually going to be sort of transitioning toward residential if we put it on our future land use map as low density residential.
So I think one thing that can be done is you could probably add agricultural to the definition, to low density. Right?
That would be great.
Those, again, right, that is taken directly from the 2018, right, future land use plan. I conceptually, right, if you are identifying areas in the township that are appropriate for agriculture, I think you'll end up excluding a lot of the agriculturally zoned properties that exist today. And then that's when you start really getting into issues by having it under the low density residential, which is essentially what they are, right? We have maybe 2 or 3, you know, actual large scale working farms. Or maybe it's 9, I think Julia said earlier today. But outside of those, right, we have lots of land that's zoned ag, that's in a low density residential classification. If you if you add an ag category, then they're the ones out of compliance with, you know, the reality of the situation. I think the simpler answer is, if we want to clear it up, we can definitely just add agriculture to the definition of low density residential.
Yeah, I would think that would be an improvement.
It's just like in your explanation, Mike, and I apologize because it's probably gonna tick you off. And we've had that before, so. You talked about ag, and it was 25%. And you said, well, if you throw the lakes in, it's probably above 30%. I haven't seen a tractor or a crop that will grow on the lakes. So how and make it bogus by saying, well, we'll put the lakes on there.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the square footage of the township, right? I mean, it's how many square miles? It's
Yeah, but
27.
how can the lakes be ag?
No, that's not.
That's not what he's
If
saying,
you
though.
take out the square footage, the acreage of the lakes, and just remove it. So we have 27
27.5.
square miles, right? So it's what, a couple square miles of lake, right? So now you have 21, let's just say, square miles total for the township. The acreage land hasn't changed, right? But the percentage increases because now you're dealing with a smaller number up top. Does that make,
I understand
Okay.
what you're telling me, but I apologize to our consultant, but this don't fly. If
So-
you want, depending on what kind of community. And this discussion has went far enough where it gets me back to my favorite subject. Storage units. That's, and we've talked about that enough, but these are not things that I truly believe the residents want. You know, Thompson Road, and I've been on the board about 24 years, had a heck of a plan where it was going to be small businesses. One of the dreams was at the corner of Torrey and Thompson, which is now ag fields, because I seen the guy plowing them. And storage units was going to be a development that consisted of small shops, restaurants. In the back, there was going to be a big elderly home, and in the front, single-family residence. And we're losing that. Ask the residents what they really want. I don't think anybody's going to say, we need a big gas station on Thompson Road.
so,
We need all those type of facilities. And the biggest mistake I've made since I sat on the board was approving the structures that are on the corner of Fenton, or Torrey Road and Thompson Road. That has went from a small project to a mammoth beyond control.
so Bob, I guess I disagree with some of those statements.
Well, I'm sure you do.
Well, but I mean, so the original Thompson Road corridor plan, right? That's what was incorporated into the updated Thompson Road corridor plan, right? The idea of highway service on the northwest side of Thompson and 23 is the same. The idea of the town center, now the site plan, we don't have site plans, right? But the idea is the same, right? That wasn't creating
I
any
would
new
dare
classification.
say, I would dare say that if you took the Thompson Road corridor plan and the new plan and asked the residents which one they like, I'm willing to bet that the Thompson Road corridor plan, which was more user-friendly and brought things for the residents of the township. And we could argue all
Well, but
that.
I guess I don't understand why the master plan doesn't do the same thing. I mean, it's essentially bringing in the same thing, the same language that was in that Thompson Road corridor plan. Now, the storage units, why did they come in? Well, at the time, water was a pipe dream, right? And it was identified in the Thompson Road corridor plan for industrial use. Well, what industrial use are you going to get without water? Well, I mean, that's why the planning commission made the recommendation, and ultimately the board adopted it, right? Because water wasn't coming to the township. And having, these great plans that, had walkable communities with mixed use of commercial and shops and restaurants weren't going to happen without water. And now water's here. And now the plan is, the master plan accepts that, follows what the original vision of that Township Road Corridor Plan was, right? The Township Road Corridor update that was done in '22 followed the original vision, expanded it a little bit. You know, understanding water is now coming all the way from Fenton Road. But all of that information has been incorporated from the Township Road Corridor Plan and now into the updated master plan. So I feel like we've listened to the public over the past 20 years and incorporated those comments into the master plan, Township Road Corridor Plan, and continuing that vision and trying to realize it in a practical manner. Look, if the storage units were to come in today, hard no, right? Things have changed. Water is now available. That is huge. So,
Well, why don't we just agree to disagree and go on?
All right. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mike. Go ahead and stay there, because we're going to have, anything else?
Yeah, going on what Kate said. So, again, I think that the ag being not part of the low, volume residential, I think that threw a lot of us,
mhm.
and Jack, myself, a couple other ones.
So I guess my question is, where was the discussion in 2018? Because I mean, this is what building off of that
I've always
last plan.
been ag. I've been, go back, and I'm sure my discussion was the same as it is now.
Mhm.
With this, and I understand zoning and future land use are two different things, and that's kind of what caught me, and I made some calls, and I talked quite in depth about this. Is there anything with this future land use with the low-density residential, is there anything that is going to stop any ag from happening there if this passes versus what there is now? And what I mean by that is are there other places in the township where there's ag now that if we pass this, that is no longer going to be ag or low-density residential?
All right, so are you asking, so we're not changing any zoning, right? So all zoning, that's
and again,
not
I'm glad
changing.
you explained that, because that's where I was really stuck on this.
We're not changing any zoning relating to this. So are you asking that if a property that's zoned ag
I just wanted
is
to
in a
say
low
it for
density?
people listening, and for me, the people that aren't the zoning man,
Sure.
that if we do this future land use, pass this tonight, what's gonna change for the small town,
All
small farmer, the small family that lives out there that wants to have chickens or horses? Is there anything that, if this passes tonight, people that are able to do it now are not going to be able to do it in an hour?
No, and it's going to strengthen the existing low-density agricultural properties in the township. One of the things that was mentioned was having the sewer service boundary, right? That is a very important tool that we need, in that is going to stop development creep. And that's one of the reasons why we got on top of the Township Road Corridor Plan when we did, because you have developmental pressure from when you have water and sewer available, right? And so that's where density follows. And we don't want density to follow, right? We
You're
do
right.
not want
Absolutely
to,
not.
and the ordinance right now, right, it says, all right, you're gonna extend that sewer to your property line. Next guy comes up, all right, you're gonna extend that sewer to your property line. Well, we identified a border. And now the northwest part of the township is protected. And we're not going to encourage the expansion of utilities out there.
Is there any law or issues you see with putting the low-density residential / ag? Would that be an issue to?
No, I mean, that's how it's always been.
I understand that, but again, that caught me off guard, because I didn't see the low-density residential / ag. I just saw it, and I made phone calls, and I talked to people, and they explained to me, that you explained to them, and the letter you wrote yesterday in the mail, that it's not stopping the ag, but I didn't see, as Kate said, where it doesn't
Look,
say it.
I think that's even a correction, right? It's not even a major change to the plan that you guys have in front of you. If you want to add that and make that motion, and I think that's like not, I don't even view, there's, when you go through the plan process, right, there's major changes, minor changes, and typos. That's a correction that's just clarifying what the intent is.
Yeah, I would like that.
So-
Because again, that was my hard no right there, just because of that. So I think if we put low density res slash ag, if we can incorporate them together, I mean, they're so similar.
That's always been the intent, right? So that's how it's been utilized in practice over the past 20 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
So Mike, would, in the legend, I guess, or what you're using now, you would just add that to the term?
Yeah.
So when you did low density, you would put that within that legend, explain
Yeah,
that?
we would just
I'm-
include agriculture in
I'm
that.
fine with that. I think that's a good idea. I support that. So but is that anything that would change this?
No.
Or
And that's just
do
clarifying
you want us
what
to
the
make,
intent is.
during the motion, would you like trustee Gopel or someone to add that?
Yeah.
Just make it part of the motion. If you don't mind doing that when I call for the vote, why don't you do that?
No, that's fine. I had one other question.
Sure.
Just jumping on what Bob said. As far as the Southern Lakes Parks and Rec, as far as taking over the dog park, is that, again, there's a lot of pages here. Is there something in there that says they will take over the dog park?
No, it's looking at a 20-year,
I know.
It's-
I know we're revisiting
Nothing
it
can
every
happen
5
unless
years.
this board approves it.
Thank you.
It's just a concept.
right? If at some point you want to apply for a grant, right, having it in there is that.
I'm just looking over things that I think are in the best interest of our residents and not other people.
But is there anything in writing that says that?
It says what?
That we have to approve anything Southern Lakes Park and Rec
I mean, it's your property.
want to change?
We own the property, so nothing can be done on that property without this board's support.
Yeah, and that's why God made attorneys and consultants. There is no protection. If you think back 15 years ago and look what Southern Lakes Park and Rec was doing and is doing currently today, there's no comparison in what they have expanded. They are a very good arm of Fenton and Linden. It ticked me off when I first seen it, and they brought this great plan to us, for us. And it was Southern Lakes Park and Rec, Fenton and Linden. And I said, if it's for us, wouldn't it be nice if Fenton Township was mentioned? And they said, oh, that must be a typo. Bull. That wasn't a typo.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Comments?
I have a concern. I have a concern with Silver Lake Road.
Mhm.
So we're talking about putting in, rezoning that, so high density, and now we're adding commercial. And I think that the people who live around the Hagerman Barn property made it clear that they don't want commercial near there. So why did we, that is a change,
Yes.
is it not?
Yep.
Adding that, the red piece that was on one of his slides. Why do we think we need that? Because I don't know that the residents who live around there are going to welcome that.
So part of the discussion was, again, right, looking at what Silver Lake Road is and what's the characteristics of those properties are.
Right.
Understanding that the DPW building is there, there could be future township uses there, and the fact that the railroad tracks go behind the property and limit its use as a residential property. Also understanding what the future availability of water, availability of sewer, everything we just talked about. Those were the reasoning, right, for those changes there.
Yeah, but I just think back that, that airport's been there forever. I mean, probably not forever, but for a very long time. People moved out there knowing there wasn't water and sewer. They lived there for decades with, you have to go 2 miles for commercial. So why do I need it next door to me? I have concerns with that. I also have concerns with the traffic and the backups coming on and off the highway. And
recommendation, right? And then you would review it. But, you know, right now, water isn't available there, right? And, you know, there probably are some traffic issues, right? So what improvements would have to be done, right, for that, to develop commercial? So it's not just someone's gonna walk in tomorrow, plop down a plan and say, here, we're doing commercial. It's a review of the conditions as they exist at the time of the application to see if it is an appropriate use at that time.
I understand that, but I think if we put it in our master plan, we're opening the door, and I don't think you can shut that door once you open it. So I think by labeling this area and putting this in here, somebody's gonna look at the master plan and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna put my commercial right there. They've already opened the door and said they're open to commercial there. And I just don't think you can back out. I think has been a very rural area of the community, and I don't think the people who live there want this. I mean, obviously they could come to the meeting tonight and voice their opinion, or could have come, you know, while the master plan was being developed. But I think we feel this need to grow and develop things that probably don't need to be grown or overdeveloped. And I think we need to be very careful on how we approach that.
Mike, a quick question, refresh my bad memory. Did we not allow the buildings of the new condos and such there at the airport to connect with Linden's water system?
All right, you had a couple of negatives in there. Are you asking if we're
Are they
requiring
using
them to?
Linden's water?
Well, so that would be the intent, right? That's what the proposed rezoning, right, would say, that they are connecting to municipal water, whatever method that would be. And the reason why I say it that way is because of Genesee County, right, and which way the county wants to handle that water agreement, right? Because water is going in from the county at one end and coming out at the other end with the city in the middle. Those specifics would be worked out during the site plan review, but connecting to municipal water, whether it's through the city or through the county, is one of the conditions of the request.
But I thought that they currently were on Linden's water system.
Are you talking about the assisted living development that's
Yep.
going in there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the rezoning that we're going to
No.
review next. No, they're on the Linden system. Correct.
Okay. And as soon as we get water to our desires, Linden and the county and Fenton Township agreed they could connect to the water. So we are taking municipal water to an area that I don't think wants it. Because we're supplying Linden. But I might be in the wrong place right now to
No,
argue this
that's a good point, but I will address it from what I know, and I could refer to Melissa Lawrence, our engineers, but there has been conversations. I've had personal conversations with Jeff Wright, the drain commissioner, and there are going to be problems with using Linden's system in the future. Even if we could work out something, and this board agreed, and Linden's board agreed to do that, there are issues. For instance, we have, I can't remember what it is, and I'm just going to throw out numbers, and if I'm wrong, Melissa can tell me, but our system is at 65 PSI. Their system is at 45. So we can't connect to their system without blowing their system up, because the county system is a lot higher because they have their own water system. So there's a lot that would have to be done, and just to reduce, from what I understand, and again, Melissa can correct me, it's about $12 million the developer would have to put in just to reduce the PSIs to take Linden's water. So there's a lot of details that have to be worked out that would, on any development that would connect to Linden. And Melissa, you're still on. Am I speaking correctly?
Yes, yeah, I think close.
Close, all right. Trying to remember those numbers. But, so, yeah, to address your concerns, I think there are future issues with water. I think it's great since Linden did join rather than replacing their old infrastructure, connecting to the county, but I think there's going to be problems with people in this township being able to connect to that water
I
system.
guess what I'm trying to point out is we had a darn good idea to bring water to Thompson Road and the 3 schools within Fenton Township. And then we went and messed up by expanding this.
We didn't expand it, Bob. Linden wanted to connect, so phase 3 was a Linden, so they could connect, so they made as a board an educated decision to say, we're gonna put X number of millions into our old system, or we're just gonna connect to this system, which was very good for Linden, by the way. So basically, just by doing that, it was a sound financial decision.
But is it,
Cheaper for them to do.
is it our system or the county's system?
County.
Okay. Then in my, and it's not humble, it's just damn straight, with this mess that the county has done, putting this water in, the person that approved it should be able to go to their friends and say, I used to work at the county on that.
All right. Any other comments?
If I could, just so everybody understands, the master plan that, this future land use, when I go to court, if I have an issue that comes up, and it's been brought up a couple times, that's the first thing everybody looks at, is what's your future land use? And this is supposed to be somewhere out in the future, and whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, but when you go to court, that's always the first thing that somebody challenges. And then Kate brought it up, and Christine brought it up. That's the first thing
We're
somebody.
not talking zoning, we're talking future land use.
Well, future land use goes into, that's the zoning looks at that. So if somebody comes in for rezoning, they always look at the future land use.
Okay.
Right, and whether or not it's consistent.
And even historically, if it's been messed up,
Here for the-
there's a lot of things that have been done differently than what they might be done now. But I'm talking like right now, so if somebody comes in and the property zoned residential and they want to make it commercial, their chances are close to zero, winning in court. But if it's master planned in the future use
Yeah.
for this commercial use, they already have a good step up, then there's all the other issues going through the planning commission and site plan and this and that, but if they don't have that, they're kind of in the O zone. That's a legal term.
So would this be something we want to make a motion on with some exclusions? Or should this be tabled to kind of work out the details that we appear to have?
That's why we have a great board. It's up to the board. All I would say, and I'm not one way or the other, all I'm saying is that it's went through a long process with a lot of public input.
Vince, I understand that.
And-
That's why I'm asking, because I see the way this vote's going. And I know that it's-
I have no problem bringing it up to vote, and it
Okay.
goes where it goes. I mean, if you want to table it, we can certainly table it. I don't think tabling it
Okay.
is going to fix the issue. If we turn it down, then I guess we would throw it back to the planning commission with our objections noted, and they would consider said changes and come back. So,
Okay.
do we want to read the resolution as it stands, or do you want to make the one change that you made with ag? Because I think, number one, I would like that, number one, at least for the record, so the planning commission knows that that is very important.
Okay, then I will move that motion.
Okay?
And, with the
Well,
well,
it's a resolution.
Paul.
Right.
No, they can make motions
Okay.
relative to
Yeah, I can make
this.
motions
Yeah.
to the resolution.
Yeah.
So you're going to make a motion
I'll make a
that,
motion that we approve the master plan adoption as presented with low-density residential having a / agricultural attached to that future land use designation.
Support.
okay, motion's been moved and seconded. Any other conversations? Okay, let's call it for a vote. Okay, resolution number 2024-10. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Whereas the Michigan Planning Enabling Act authorizes municipal planning commissions to prepare a master plan pertinent to the future development of the municipality, and whereas the Fenton Township Planning Commission has prepared a draft master plan for the municipality to update and revise the community's master plan, and whereas the Fenton Township Board authorized the distribution of a draft plan to the general public and various entities as required by MPEA for review and comments. Whereas the proposed master plan was made available to various entities and the general public as required by MEPA, and a public hearing pardon me, thereon was held by the Planning Commission on May 9th, 2024, pursuant to notice in requiring the MPEA. And whereas the Charter Township Board of Trustees finds the proposed master plan as submitted desirable and proper, and further land use pardon me, Tom, will you take over, please?
And furthers the land use and development goals and strategies of the Charter Township of Fenton. Now therefore be it resolved, the Township Board of the Charter Township of Fenton hereby adopts the new revised Fenton Township Master Plan as submitted for the public hearing, including all the text, charts, tables, maps, and descriptive and other matter therein intended by the Planning Commission to form the complete master plan, including the future land use classification map.
And I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to be clear, this would still have that,
Yes,
on
we've
Silver
already,
Lake zone commercial. I'm probably going to be a no because of that, but if the planning commission looked at it and, changed that portion.
Well, one thing, and this may not make a difference, the majority of that property is owned by the township. And there are some public uses that I think would probably be more likely than true commercial.
Yeah, do we think,
like our fire.
so if the majority is ours, could we have, is there a reason it's a bigger area than just ours, or is it?
I think there's one piece next to it that doesn't, it's right up against the railroad tracks. And
West,
it'd be east.
And how big's that? Do we know?
You know, like
Isn't our DPW on the east parcel?
No, we're on the west part.
west parcel.
This one?
We're,
Up
Yeah.
the right?
yeah,
With those two,
with the two houses in the middle.
two houses in,
Yeah,
okay.
it actually, in the line, it actually goes all the way to the boundary
I've blended.
of Linden.
Yeah.
And that's a potential centralized fire station location too, because the training equipment's already out there.
That would have to be zone commercial for the fire department?
That's
Correct.
my understanding. Or it had to be designated in order to make that work.
Yes. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Patrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote no. Gopel,
No.
Tucker is absent. Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed.
No.
It's a 3-3 vote.
Mr. Tucker?
So I believe then the vote or the motion or the resolution is dead.
So it's a failed
It's a failed
Yeah,
motion.
motion fails.
The board could either bring it back when the full board is here, or ask the planning commission to resubmit.
Yeah, Mike, that's what we'll do. Let's just hold off, take the comments from the board to the planning commission, and bring it back when you know we have 100% of the board present. I know it's gonna be hard, but I guess that's our only option, at this point anyway.
Wait, so, I mean, if we're just keeping it at board level, waiting for a full board, then it doesn't need to go back to the planning commission?
Unless you want to recognize the change that trustee Gopel want it added. I wouldn't bring it back to the board without that, I guess.
Understood.
Understood? All right. All right, thank you. We'll move on. Next business in order is adoption of ordinances. This is rezoning number R24-001, Redwood, USA, parcel number 06-28-100-008, Silver Lake Road, Ag to RM with conditions. This is the second reading and the vote on the adoption. So again, this is an ordinance amendment to rezone property on Silver Lake Road from Ag to RM with conditions, which was introduced at the April 30th meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Anything you want to say, Mike?
I think, there's no questions. I think you guys fully reviewed it the last meeting.
Right. Okay, I need a motion to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to rezone parcel 06-28-100-008 from Ag to RM with conditions as presented.
I move the resolution.
Do I have a second?
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Kessler.
Yes.
I vote no. Reed,
No.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick,
Yes.
Gopel,
No.
and Tucker is absent.
STRs, and then the general police power ordinance on short-term rentals. Again, this is the second reading of the two proposed ordinances regarding short-term rentals. One is a zoning ordinance amendment to make short-term rentals a permitted use in commercial districts and a use by special use permit in residential zoning districts. The second is a general or police power ordinance to establish regulation for short-term rentals. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have questions.
Yes.
And comments, actually. One question is, have we had any litigation brought to the township so far reference short-term rentals?
None.
Okay. All right, here's some of my concerns, okay? The concerns I have is the big one is, there's been no litigation on this yet, but putting in conditions on these short-term rentals, especially like the 1,500 feet, and I know it's just a guideline, but I'm a big proponent of not telling people what to do on their own property. I see this creating lawsuits, and not just if we lose the lawsuit, but just costing the township money in litigation defense, whether we win or lose. It's still gonna cost the entire township as a whole for the attorney fees for these court cases that I see coming. If we start limiting how many people can have these, limiting, two neighbors want to have them but they can't because there's a 1,500-foot distance. I also see that, I think we're getting to a dangerous precedence here that we're passing laws or ordinances for non-existent problems yet, okay? I can think of 100 problems that haven't happened in the township yet, that how many of these are we gonna pass laws on that address a situation that hasn't been a concern yet? You know, and my big problem with that is that, I mean, again, we're creating a law to stop a problem that hasn't existed yet. It's been going on in the township for so long, but it's not been an issue. But now when we do pass this law, and I understand the spirit of it, but I also see the practical effects that it's not going to affect the majority of the township residents, whether this passes or not. But it is going to affect them in the fact that it's going to cost everybody in the township money to defend this, that when we start passing this ordinance, that all of a sudden we're taking rights away from certain people. I don't know if it's going to be first come, first serve, or who we'd like better to get it, or if it's somebody that's already had an existing short-term rental that, you know, other people, it hasn't been an issue until we brought it to the public, and now everybody's here wanting to know what we're going to do about it, whereas
There's something in the like application that doesn't fit, it would still, get rejected, but it does seem to be first come, first serve, and I think we have the number at 29. I don't know why anyone who lived on a lake, either who wanted an Airbnb or a short-term rental of some sort, or who didn't want one near them, when after we pass this, immediately apply for a permit so they could restrict the 1,500 feet around them,
And never use it.
and then and never use it, just squat on it. And then once that happens, then even if you're not in like since there's only 29 of these, permits, then even if you're not in an area where it's contested at all, maybe you're, in a sort of, maybe there's an there's one of these low density residential / agricultural districts we have that maybe someone wants to put like a little Airbnb on, there's no one around them, there's plenty of space, it's not gonna bother anyone. Well, I'm sorry, there were only 29 permits, you're at the end of the list, and the list is 50 long. So I think we have a problem there. And then separately from that, I think we've just got a lot of things in here that aren't a great fit for, the concerns that we have. So I don't think the 3-night minimum for the whole house rentals really makes sense. I'm a night out here at a hotel. I can tell you the loudest people are always the people who come for a weekend. Usually it's like a wedding group or something, comes back, they're all, they've had some alcohol, they're having fun. And they're loud late at night, and I'm the one who quiets them down. And we have some strange things in here, like it's an absolute no to having fire pits outside, but then it's a yes to the fireworks if it's in compliance with the overall fireworks ordinance. And then I think really that like large lot, small lot thing should be considered more closely. I don't know that we even need this if you have a big lot, a big enough area. But I think I can see how we definitely need something if it's, condos or houses right up next to each other on a lakefront. I can see why you wouldn't want, it just dotted with Airbnbs. And then we have some just even stranger language in there. I really don't like it talks about, I think we mean for it to be 2 people per bedroom. It says 2 heartbeats per bedroom. I don't know if that applies to pets, if that applies to, fetuses that are more than 4 weeks along. Like
Exactly what it was last week. That's what we talked about.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna miss that, but I would like that changed. I'd also like us to use, if it does pass, I'd like the use of the word permit and license to be consistent between the 2 ordinances. And then I don't like some of the language in the transfers portion. It talks about corporate entities, and so if you just own it, if you just have one of these permits as an individual, you can only transfer it to your family members. But then if you own it as a corporate entity, you can transfer it to any other member of the corporate entity, which presumably you can add members of the corporate entity. So that just seems a lot more expansive than the individual portion. So I guess there's a lot of little things I don't like about it, and then there's some sort of broader structural things that I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I would just add to that, there is a lot of ambiguity in the language. I know we're not going to get it perfect out of the gate, but I think we can do better than what's in front of us. And I also feel very strongly about the fact that there should be some residency requirements. So a company can't just, or a person can't just buy a home in the community and have it strictly as a rental. I've done some research on this, including some guidance that's put out by this company that I believe we were intending to hire to assist us with that. And I think that's a viable suggestion. I think it needs to be people who have some stake in the community. So I think there needs to be some form of residency requirement attached to the property.
All great comments. Yep. Oh, yeah, sure, Bob.
If you recall, and I should have got the note, we had a public hearing on this. And there was one young gentleman that stated, I finally was able to buy a house on the lake. And then lo and behold, the house on both sides of him are, in my words, illegally being used as rentals, whatever you want to call it. And he was concerned. He said, I've got parties on both sides of me, but I'm the one that's spending taxes and finances to buy that house. Another older lady, and I'm 78, so I don't mean to insult anybody, pointed out that she had her grandkids come, and they're little kids. And they're a lot like my little kids. And she says, why would I let my 6 or 7-year-old go out and play on the raft or splash in the water when I could have individuals that aren't as good as the neighbors that should be there. And I'm trying to be nice how I'm saying it, and I'm messing it up. But, you know, there's things that if you want to do a short-term rental, make it a week. All of a sudden, I know there's one case in Fenton, I will not name the individual yet, that rents his out every weekend he can. And he moves he and his spouse to the attic of the basement so that other people can use the house. It just, in my mind, very scary if we don't restrict these. And when we talked at the open conversation about it, we said there had to be someone local.
Yeah, that's still there.
No, it's not still there.
Yes, it is.
Local, according to the one that's in front of me, is a local agent within 30 miles of the rental is acquired. So I call the agent at 10:30 and say, they're still partying next door. Come do something. Well, he's gonna drive 30 miles, and by the time he gets here, they're over. Oh, darn, I missed them.
Okay, so you're saying that should be smaller then?
It should be local. 30 miles is Saginaw. There's just too many, here again, in my opinion, and I've expressed it a lot tonight, horrible things can happen, and I think we're allowing, I think there's 10 or 11 already in
29.
the town, in the township.
29.
29? Okay, I got a short list. But, and we just shouldn't, I know we can, allow this.
So are you for it or against it? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll call my name first. It'll be no.
So you don't want regulation, you just want as many as
I don't
possible?
want short-term rentals.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you don't want short-term
No.
rentals. Are you done, Bob?
I probably should be. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna be quick. I'm not gonna talk about sides. I've talked about the process. Kate, everything that you addressed has been addressed. So I'm not saying that as a negative, but this process has been going on for 14, 15 months.
Right.
We've had every planning commission meeting, every meeting, twice a month. Everybody's welcome to come, including board members. So all of these issues have been dealt with. And the one thing I want to say to the audience is, I've attended 2 MTA conferences and spent a lot of my time going to classes on short STRs, short-term rentals. it is terrifying to every community that's tried them. I mean, I was up there and I was talking to, give you an example, Traverse City. Now think of Traverse City. Probably every one of us have been to Traverse City, and maybe you haven't stayed at a short-term rental, but most people do. And they're everywhere. And as hard as the Planning Commission has worked, and this board has worked, what we have in front of us is not perfect. I can guarantee you that. Even Traverse City went through 2 years trying the same process that we've put in 14, 15 months. And you know how long their first ordinance lasted? Good for you. 30 days. So as a supervisor, my concern is that we either regulate them in some form, because that's everything that I've been taught in all the classes I've been to. You have to regulate them in some form. If you try to stop them, which a lot of people would love to do, we will be sued. And that will be the most expensive lawsuit. And there's multiple municipalities that have been through those lawsuits, and they've lost because the attorney and the law firms are coming out of DC. So the point, I'm not fighting either side. I'm just telling you that the process we went through, no matter what we do with the ordinance tonight, if we vote for it or we vote against it, and we start all over again, and Mike, I'm going to let you address all this. I'm just saying that every person that's had a concern, and probably a lot of them are here tonight, we have tried to address, or the Planning Commission, I'll speak for the Planning Commission, has tried to address all of them. It's never going to make everybody happy. But I know that the one option as a township we don't have is to ban them. Because we will be sued, and it will be in a very expensive lawsuit. So what we can do is the Wild Wild West. We can just wash our hands of it and let it go, or we can try to regulate it in some form. How we do that is the process is what makes this country so great, is we opened it up to the public for 14, 15 months. 2 meetings a month, and allowed everybody to come and give their input. If they didn't, then, trust me, like Mike said, we mailed the whole township. So all I'm saying is no matter which way this board goes, it's not going to be perfect tonight. It is not going to make everybody sitting in this room happy. Some are going to leave happy, some are going to leave maybe a little upset. But it's going to take this board and the Planning Commission time, I think, to make a perfect ordinance. And it might be one of those things with STRs that there's never a perfect outcome. Because as a riparian, I wanted nothing to do with them. I don't, on the lake, it worried me. People renting out their boats and their, jet skis. That's all I need on a.
This isn't just the lake.
No. I mean, it's everywhere. I understand that. All I'm saying is that that's all I got to say. Mike, why don't you? I know that you were taking notes for Mr. Gopal.
So,
and
I
Kate.
guess I originally had, some responses, but if I am a betting man, I think I'm going 0 for 3 tonight. And so what I'm hearing, right, the big things that need to be reconsidered, residency requirements, and whether that's a local agent closer than 30 miles or having owner occupied for a certain part of the year, reconsider distance requirements, clarify occupancy, review the transfer rules to make that a little bit clearer, and then review the length of stay. It maybe makes sense to refer it back to the Planning Commission for further discussion and have them make some further discussion, probably a couple of revisions based on discussion tonight, and bring it back to you guys.
That is going to be my recommendation.
It is what it is, right?
No, I was going to say, I would like a motion. I would
Yeah.
like to have someone make a motion that we table this, send it back to the Planning Commission.
Need a
again.
motion?
I would like to add one thing.
Yep.
As written, it says 29 within the township.
No, it says that the board has to pass a resolution, a separate resolution to limit the number.
Okay,
The
And
number
pricing.
29 is not actually in the ordinance.
That's correct.
Correct.
It is in the resolution that.
but
I think
there
is next
are
on the
numbers
agenda.
out there,
But it's-
as Mr. Lorraine said, there's 29 of them.
right now.
What if we have 31, 32,
We're back in 30 days talking. No, it's so the planning commission talked about it, right? I think the actual number was closer to 19, and the idea was 29 was providing a little bit of leeway based on seasonal, right? Because not everyone was noticing at the same time. Some people may notice different times, so 29 was picked to try to address that concern. As John said, right, this is not written in stone, right? This is, going to be a living document. And, they may find that 29 is not the right number. Come back and make a recommendation that you increase it. Or that 29 was too many, and now, hey, let's put it at 20. Or, that's part of the reason why it's done through resolution, right? And not in the ordinance specifically to allow you to pass a resolution with the number of licenses that would be allowed.
Well, I look at it, if I'm number 21 in line and we only give 20, then do I go to court and say, you're discriminating against me because my Airbnb short-term rentals is just like everybody else's? There are so many things, and I think we have to be super careful.
So is the recommendation that the planning commission look at the recommendation for the cap number, or recommend or review if a cap is appropriate?
Well, I know for a fact tonight that a friend that I've known for a long time has thrown enough daggers at me, I would look like the background at an axe throwing. But it's still the right thing to do, is control it.
All right, so the more we talk, the more confused I get.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
enough said.
so I think this is important because
No,
when
it
we bring
is,
something
but-
back, we want it to be something that you guys are comfortable with and you want to approve.
Right.
And I think, listening to Mark, I don't think Mark is necessarily in favor of having
Well,
caps.
again, no, and I'll tell you why, because again, there's not been any lawsuits yet, and I promise you, the minute we start to tell people what they can and can't do, I look at everything, is it a benefit or a burden to the township as a whole? I see this as being a benefit to a few people if we put these regulations in, but on the flip side, I see it as being a burden to the township as a whole, because the people that are not affected by this are going to be affected by their money is going to go to start defending lawsuits that we haven't had yet, but we will once we pass this. And they have no card in this game, but they are going to be paying for this because everybody in the township has to pay for it. And we are, whether we win or lose, we're still going to be paying just the litigation cost of our attorneys to defend it, whether we win or lose.
Yeah, and Bob, are you in favor of caps or not in favor of a cap?
He doesn't want us
Are
to.
you just, all right, so, but, all right, hypothetically, right? I don't know if you have the votes to say no, right? And so what is the compromise? Is the compromise having cap or not having a cap? And look at the, because a lot of this ordinance is compromise, right? And it's trying to make no one happy, but trying to get the best we can. And at least having, some understanding of where you're coming from, because we want to make this the best we can, right? And so, if there's a philosophical take, that we could at least discuss, that would be helpful for the planning commission.
Yeah, so on the cap portion, I'm not totally opposed to a cap. I'm opposed to a cap over the whole township, including low density residential and ag areas. I feel like you might want some sort of cap in the the lake houses that are close to each other. I'm not sure the best way to structure that. I guess that's sort of the planning commission, but I think you could maybe exclude the low density residential and the agricultural from the.
I can tell you the planning commission had that discussion,
Yeah.
right? That was one of the first questions, right? Do we treat lake lots different than non-lake lots?
Yeah.
Right, and the thought was, well, they're all township lots, right? And we shouldn't be granting, restrictions over one versus the other and just treat them all
Yeah, I
the
guess-
same.
Right.
So that's how that came about. That was part of the discussion that was had. this ordinance does talk about non-conforming lots and or restricting occupancy based on site conditions, right? So if you only have a 50-foot wide lot and you're only 5 feet and you reach out and touch your neighbors, it may be appropriate to only have, 2 renters or, 2 renters based on site conditions. Or, for larger lots, then, you get the full, however many bedrooms you have. You did talk about the heartbeat, right? That was, again, a lot of discussion, and discussion was really centered around number of people and trying to circumvent, right? So now you're bringing kids, right? Well, how do you count kids? And now you have 3 people in a bedroom versus 2 people, and so the thought process was heartbeats, sure.
Yeah, with that, I'd rather just have a definition in there, whatever it is. I'd rather have a clear definition, because if we end up litigating on it, I really don't want something as vague as heartbeat.
Sure, and look, just to give you a background where that was coming from, but I totally understand what you're saying.
And then I guess my other thing is part of these licenses are going to be really valuable because there's so few of them and they're restricted. And I think part of the way you could take some of the tension and some of the value out of them would be for it not to be, basically, right now every 1 year they would be extended, but there's no, I don't think we'd be extending them, we wouldn't be saying, we'd be extending them unless there was some violation.
Correct.
I think there should be, if they're gonna be this sort of scarce commodity, I think they should just eventually expire, like 5, 10 years, I don't know what amount, so that it's not this piece of land, this house is perpetually more valuable than all the ones around it. I'd like, okay, you've had your 5 years, now we're gonna move to the whoever's next on the list of.
Yeah, so that actually came up during discussion, right?
Yeah.
When the residents brought that up as a suggestion, and I think the planning commission considered it and didn't feel it was appropriate. So they have had that discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah, it's just, I mean, I think if I were a homeowner, especially if I were on a lake, I would immediately be, even if I didn't particularly care whether there was a short-term rental next to me and I didn't have any immediate plans to have a short-term rental, I think I would immediately run out and get one of these licenses and sit on until I decided what to do with it, so I could have the more valuable, I mean, even at $750, I think that's easily worth it to just control the area around you for the next.
I gotta be honest with you, I've been looking at these stupid things for 2 years and never even thought of that. And
I thought of the same thing. And
now that
it's
you
not
said
only
it,
the value, it's the fact that if I'm adamantly opposed to short-term rentals, I'm gonna go get that license because now I've got 1,500 feet around me that nobody else can
Well,
have.
and you can ask your 29 friends to go to it too, and then you control the whole township. So.
Okay. Okay.
It
Can I
would-
motion this? I mean,
Again,
I'm gonna make a motion
all I
to
want to
table.
say is one thing, because we're going to come back in a month,
Yep.
and they'll incorporate every change we talked about.
Right.
And there's going to be, half the people in that room are still going to be upset. So the bottom line is, we have to come up, and the people out here that are here and that are going to watch us on YouTube have to understand that no matter what we do, it's not going to be perfect.
It's fine.
It's not going to satisfy everybody. Just take a good look at Washington and what's coming out of Washington. Half the people like what's coming out, the other half doesn't. So the bottom line is, we are going to do, and I hope all of you understand that this township has done a great job. The Planning Commission has done a great job. You may not like what you see in this ordinance, but just from listening to this board, you can tell how these people care. And we're going to do the best we can to give you the best ordinance in the future. So, if you want to.
Yeah. And for your planning commission, my concern is the 1,500 feet in the caps. I will make a motion that we table this and send it back to.
No, just vote it down.
Refer back to the
Okay.
planning commission, not table.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, that'd be-
Refer it back.
I'll make a motion, we refer this back to the planning commission for future discussion to bring back to us at a later time.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It goes back to the planning commission.
Mike, you got
The
a yes?
motion passed.
Got the wrong yes, but you got one. All right, moving on to the next business order is unfinished business. This is public utility connection peak meter agreement with Lake Fenton Community Schools. It's been corrected. Operations Manager Broker, will you kind of review?
Yes, the board approved almost the same agreement a couple meetings ago, and we found a correction that needed to be made. And removed a provision regarding some additional cost adjustments that the county had missed in their review, and we did as well, to be honest. So we're just correcting it. It's the same, basically the same agreement, that they'll have a 1-year monitoring period once they've connected to the municipal water, and the county will monitor the peak flows through those meters, and then determine their final REU count based on that, and those REUs will be used to bill for water and sewer going forward from that time.
Thanks, Tom. All right, is there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve the public utility connection peak meter agreement with Lake Fenton Community Schools in Genesee County as presented.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Tucker is absent. Lorraine.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Kotrek.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes.
All right. All right, next business in order is resolution number 2024-11, short-term rental limits and fees. We just going to table that?
We just, you would just move on.
Just move on.
There's no action to take.
Yeah,
since
no
the
action.
ordinance is unadopted.
All right, moving on to, next under new business is appointments to Fenton Township Planning Commission. The terms of planning commissioners Kimberly Pfeiffer and Todd Forsberg will expire on May 31st, 2024. Both individuals are doing an excellent job on the planning commission, and both have indicated they wish to continue serving on this very important board. I am recommending that both Ms. Pfeiffer and Mr. Forsberg be reappointed to 3-year terms on the Fenton Township Planning Commission. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to reappoint Kimberly Pfeiffer to the Fenton Township Planning Commission for the term ending May 31st, 2027.
Support, or so moved. I'll move it.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrek.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker is absent. I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, I need a motion to reappoint Todd Forsberg to the Fenton Township Planning Commission for the term ending May 31st, 2027.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kotrek.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker is absent. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is the Genesee County Road Commission Local Road Project. This is Barnum Lake Court and Wiggins Road ditching. Operations Manager Broker, will you explain?
Yes, included in the packet is a cost proposal from the Road Commission to do some ditching and drainage improvements in the area of Barnum Lake Court and Wiggins Road. There's some flooding in the area, and the Road Commission feels this project will take care of that problem. The total cost is a little under $17,000. They actually think it'll be a little less than that, but they always try to aim high so they can explain why it's less, not more. And I've also included a list of all the projects that have already been approved, along with this one being approved, or being requested for approval tonight, and plus a couple other projects we're waiting for estimates on. I did want to point out that one of the projects the township had approved, which was the limestone resurfacing of Hogan Road from Lobdell to Silver Lake, will not be going forward this year, as Argentine Township, who would have shared that cost, did not approve it. So it may be back on the list next year, the year after, but so that's off the schedule. With removal of that, they will reallocate our 50-50 money to some other projects, and then with adding this project, we're still only not even halfway to our budget. But the paving projects we're waiting for estimates on could eat that up in a hurry. But I do recommend approval of this project.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from
Do
the
we
board?
know anything about, I mean, we can't control what Argentine Township does, but do we know anything about their rationale for why they didn't approve that? I know there were residents who were particularly concerned about that stretch of road.
No, that piece was not, it was the Hogan Road north of Silver Lake was the
Okay.
area where our residents were concerned. And that still is on the
It's
schedule, because
still
that's
on the
all
schedule.
within our township.
Okay.
This, south of Silver Lake Road, Hogan is the boundary between Fenton and Argentine. And I did not hear the reasoning, whether it was a budgetary issue or they just didn't feel it was bad enough to be done. I was under the impression they had requested it, so maybe that was incorrect. Maybe it was the road commission that suggested it, and ultimately Argentine decided not to do it.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I thought too, is that they'd requested it, and then also I knew we were not doing it with the same mix, right? Is this the one?
No, the Ray
I'm
Road with
confusing
Mundy
things.
Township was the one that wasn't having the purpose.
Okay, sorry, I'm confused then.
No problem.
Thank you.
That's no problem. Any other questions or comments from anyone on the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve a local road project for ditching and drainage improvements on Barnum Lake Court and Wiggins Road as presented.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I vote yes. Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker is absent, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right. Next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? Did a great job tonight. All right, moving on to public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I will now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. First, is there anyone here present that would like to address the board? Yes, sir, come up. All we need is your name.
I'm Ron Sattler. I live at 2495 Margaret Drive. And Mr. Supervisor and Fenton Township Board, I'd like to address an ongoing problem with encroachment and flooding of my property caused by excess filling of Lot 4 at 2507 Margaret Drive. For those who may not be familiar with it, that's a large house that's being constructed on the lakeside of Margaret Drive, just off Torrey Road. And Tom Broker has photos and a video clip that you can review while I'm talking. In 2021, Lot 4 of Lake Fenton Retreat was split off from a larger parcel, and the legal description redefined reducing the size of the lot. Later in 2021, the new lot was staked for a potential dwelling to be constructed. At that time, I reviewed the site plan. I came to the township, reviewed the site plan, and I informed Fenton Township Building Department that the dwelling being proposed was too large for the lot, and there was no way that the house would not need a deck, patio, or platform to step out on. I was assured that it would not be permitted. Fenton Township then issued a building permit stating that no decks would be permitted on the lake side. The contractor built the house with decks, even though they were specifically prohibited. It resulted in a stop order being issued and a meeting being scheduled with the Zoning Board of Appeals. The ZBA reviewed the request for the variance for the balconies and unanimously denied the appeal. The builder then cut 2 feet off the deck, which still encroached on the side lot setback even with the modification, and they brought the request back to the ZBA with a plan that not only included the shortened non-compliant balconies, but also a masonry patio and a retaining wall. The ZBA again reviewed the plan and unanimously denied the appeal. The builder then constructed a 7-foot-high retaining wall right on the property line and also built a masonry patio over the sewer, which resulted in yet another stop order being issued. A large amount of fill dirt has been brought in to raise the overall elevation of the lot, which has created a water runoff problem. The excessive fill, along with changing the existing grade, has created water runoff from this lot, causing property damage, with water and silt being dumped across my property and into the lake. Even with multiple stop orders, construction has continued without a plan to bring the dwelling into compliance. A permanent concrete stairway has now been constructed within the east side lot setback dumping even more water on my property. My yard is being inundated with water that has created a swamp, and the retaining wall has been undermined by the runoff. The builder has been given multiple opportunities to comply with Fenton Township ordinances and repeatedly violated the township regulations, which has resulted in damage to my property. I'm asking for the board's help to address these problems and to not issue an occupancy permit until the setback and the flooding issues are resolved. I want to thank you for your time and listening to my problem and for your consideration and support of the dilemma that I'm in. I invite you to come and walk my property. You are welcome to come and see the damage firsthand and the problem that's been created by this dwelling. I'm willing to answer any questions, and I will submit a digital copy of the transcript of my comments along with supporting documents.
What's your address in
2495 Margaret Drive. I'm the third house on Margaret Drive, right next to the large house that's been under construction for 3 years.
Are you south or north of it?
I am
West
to
of
the
it,
east.
or east
I'm
of
to
it.
the east of the house that's under construction. I'm on the south side of the road of Margaret Drive.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Mr. Trevor, thank you very much for
Yeah,
coming here
thank
this
you.
evening. I just wanted to let you know I was out there. I have looked at the property. It has been a long time, and I know there's been issues. And I just wanted you to know that I have had probably 24 conversations with our zoning administrator, with Stuart, our code enforcement officer. I know that they've been out there on multiple occasions. And from what I understand, and I'll let Mike address it, I guess, or our engineer, but no C of O is going to be issued until there's been an as-built. And an as-built is the final, and I think everything that you're talking about will have to be dealt with. So until that time, Mike, has he applied for a C of O?
No.
Okay, because has he submitted, okay, so he hasn't even submitted it yet, so I don't know where he's at in that. But I know there's only so much we can do, but he will be required before a C of O is issued, an as-built. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for Mr. Sadler?
So, I mean, we have an approved grade plan, right? And the reason why we do as-bills are to ensure that the plans meet what was originally approved. During the construction process, right, grades change, right? So that's why we required the as-built. The deck question wasn't an issue with decks themselves. It's the fact that there's a sewer easement, a sewer line that goes behind the house. And the engineers didn't want the deck to extend over the sewer. And so they went to try to seek variance, was denied. Submitted plans that complied with the zoning ordinance. Those will again be checked at the as-built before a C of O is issued. I understand this is a long process. Everything is taking longer than it used to. House construction is not as fast as it used to be. Getting materials, getting workers. Post-pandemic, everything has changed. This has not been the best process. But at the same time, it's the process. Right? We don't have the ability to light a fire under a contractor and make it work faster. We don't have the ability to say, you can't work in a township. You know, we have to allow them to go through the process, and unfortunately, this is the process. So that's where we're at with this.
I can add something. I think Treasurer Tucker probably says something like this if he were here. In addition to what the township can do, it looks like I'm not giving legal advice or anything, but it looks like a trespass case based on surface water being diverted onto your property from their property. If they change the flow of the surface water, that can be a trespass case. So I'm just saying, and you wouldn't have to wait for any process to bring a civil trespass case. You might want to city attorney, I mean, I know it costs money, so I'm not, I'm sure Treasurer Tucker would say something like that if he were here.
I understand that
Yeah.
completely. And what I'm asking for is, because I'm currently living in the suggestion to wait until at the end. I'm being flooded out now. I mean, now is the time. And if the grade is not where it's supposed to be, and we don't even have a finished grade yet. And the grade plan, we're on about the third grade plan because it keeps changing. And I've already taken my 3 minutes, and I do want to thank you for coming
I
out.
know it's very important to you, and I know that it's been an issue.
We've been in our home for 40 years, and we're being flooded out. And it's unlivable. And the situation, can't mow the lawn, kids can't play in the yard anymore. There's debris, rocks, and the retaining wall is being undermined by the runoff. And I tell the grandkids, don't even get near it. It's a 7-foot retaining wall that the Zoning Board of Appeals was part of the package coming in with the balconies. And the balconies, they encroach on the side lot setback. It's not just the sewer, it's the side lot. It's 20 foot from our bedroom window. It's where they've got the balconies that were turned down 3 times unanimously by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Thank you for listening to it. And I just ask, do what you can do in the interim to stop this. And I understand your suggestion and appreciate that. And I understand what it is. And I just, that no certificate of occupancy will be issued until the encroachment, so he's not 20 foot from our bedroom window in the side lot, and the flooding. The flooding is just unlivable. I can't live with that now. And we have started. I have notified the police. There's a police record of trespassing and property damage, and that's ongoing. I'm here to ask for your support as well. And thank you for your personal involvement and your phone calls to me. I know you understand it and know what we're going through.
I do, and Mr. Seller, I will promise you the township will do what it can legally do, and I will make sure I will walk your property again. And when you sit down, I'm going to ask our engineer exactly if there's anything else that we could possibly do at this point on an engineering, side. I don't know, but I know what you're going through, and we'll do what we can.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and the extra
Thank
time.
you. Melissa, can you open up your mic? Is there any input you have for Mr. Sadler regarding the property that RJ is building?
No, other than we do have the approved latest grade plan that if and when he asks for a final inspection, we will take that final grade plan to see if it matches, as well as he will have to do a final as-built that shows what is actually out there, what elevations are actually out there, which will show what the drainage is doing, not just, by us trying to eyeball it. It will be actually surveyed in by a licensed surveyor engineer. And if it doesn't match, and if the stormwater is not simply following the swales in between the two properties, or the properties on either side, as our ordinance will allow, then he'll have to make those changes before he ever gets a certificate of occupancy.
Thanks, Melissa.
Good question for Melissa. With the erosion affecting the 7-foot wall, in your opinion as an engineer, does that make it a dangerous building?
I know this was brought up, and my understanding was Stuart was going to go out and look at that. I don't know if that happened.
Yeah, so Stuart went out, did an inspection, and didn't find any issues with it.
Okay, so our building inspector has been out. But he's not an engineer, he's just checking the integrity of the wall. Okay. Mr. Sadler, we'll stay on it. Thank you for addressing the board. Is there anyone else here that is here presently that would like to address the board? Do you want to come up together or one at a time? Yeah, sure, come on up, just state your name.
My name is Deborah Ulsman, and this is,
I'm John Yulesman.
we would first like to make you aware of the concerns again, and again, for the property on 1254 Pomona Court. Over 2 years ago, we came to you guys with issues and problems at that address. The yard is in complete disrepair, meaning the grass is never cut unless we actually call and make a complaint, and then they go out there on the 11th hour. The homeowners do as little as possible to keep the township off their back. As you all know, Donna is the landlord, or her daughter is the owner of the home, supposedly, but we have had Donna owns several properties in Fenton, and you guys know which ones they are because all of them have issues. On this particular property, we live right next door to this, and we've been to you guys before, all of the neighbors that are, that are included in this. There is still a pond on the front part of the house, again filled with stagnant water and breeding mosquitoes, and animals are dying in this cesspool, leaving us to deal with all of the smells. There are still raccoons living on the property, along with mice and chipmunks living in the side of the house. We can see it because we see the side of the house and them coming and going. This is an environmental hazard. We were told 2 years ago that the environmental testing would be done because the inside of the house is mold and mildew that you can smell anytime you're walking by. And we have a lot of walkers in our neighborhood, so it's very offensive. On certain days, you can smell the mold and mildew coming from the inside of the home. We noticed it mostly, again, while we're walking by the home. We were told that the inside of the house would also be inspected, and then we were told Donna got a lawyer. Okay, Donna got a lawyer, so what does that mean? None of our concerns or anything that we're talking about matter anymore, because we've never heard anything more about all of the things that are going on over there. One of the things that is a problem is Pomona Court and Pomona Drive come together, and that is right on the corner of that property, and nobody can see to get out on the street until you're halfway in Pomona. So
Because the bushes are so overgrown and
you
falling
can't
out.
see anything. It's a hazard. It's a hazard for kids that are going by, people not stopping, trying to get out and almost running into other cars and stuff. So those were the things that we were trying to find out from you guys, what actually is going to be done with the things that are going on with that. Let's see.
Jack, you took a statement from us 2 years ago as far as Ashley wasn't living there, and I know they did get the homestead tax revoked on that house, so it's non-homestead tax now, and ever since that happened, she won't do anything. I pick up leaves. I have 2 trees in my yard, an oak tree in the backyard and a birch tree in the front yard. I pick up leaves 30 to 40 times through the fall, through the winter if I can, and again in the spring from them blowing from that yard to us.
Because she has over 17 trees in her yard, and 4 of them are dead. We've asked her if she's going to do anything about that, and we
There's
have no
one I'm scared to
response.
death that the wind blows right, it's gonna go right through the middle of our house. It's this big around.
There's tree branches that have fallen because of storms that have happened, and because of those tree branches, they fell, and until we got the call May 2nd, Chad, who lives next door to her on the other side, had called, and she had till the 16th to get her grass cut and all of that. The only thing she did was cut the grass.
4 o'clock on the 15th, they
Yeah.
showed up
The 11th hour is when she takes care of
and
things.
ran over with a lawnmower and packed up and left.
But she did take the branches and she hid them under the leaves that were there. There's so many leaves in that yard, and we know we talked to Pat Shaw 2 days ago. He came by to see it again on Monday, and he said, there's nothing we can do about that. She can have the leaves in the yard. She cut the grass. That's all it is. That's all that we have to be concerned about. Well, that's not all we have to be concerned about. But my husband and I have been living next to this property for 22 years. And because of no promises or actions being taken, we are going to be moving. Now, we have been taxpayers. We've never missed a water bill. We've never missed our taxes. being paid or anything else, and yet she can get away with these kinds of things going on when everybody else in the neighborhood has got their lawns and everything manicured.
You can ask
They're-
Pat, we take care of our lawn like I like it to be, look like Better Homes and Gardens. When we moved in, there was a couple of guys there that kept the place gorgeous. That's why we bought where we did.
Now
And it's
we're-
been downhill ever since.
I don't want to stress anymore about the wild animals and the varmints that are constantly coming over in our yard and tearing up our garbage and all of that kind of stuff. I'm done stressing about that. I retired, and this is what I have to look at every single day. So we're wondering from you guys, because Pat said that something can be done about ordinances. Maybe ordinances can be changed where people actually have to take care of their property more than just cutting the grass. But he said it's a long process. What I would like to know is step by step, what is it that us as neighbors have to do to force someone like this to not be able to have their property be taken care of the way that it is?
Well, we do have our zoning administrator here that could explain that process.
Oh, I don't know about that one. That's a little bit outside my realm.
Okay, should I refer to you, Jack? I mean, because it
I-
sounds to me a lot of stuff she's talking about, as sad as it may be, we really don't have the authority.
Half of you came out that.
I was one of them. But it's been a year.
After the
I was
meeting,
there.
yeah.
I saw you both.
Yeah,
Um,
and guaranteed us something was gonna happen because it was falling apart and so on and so forth. And here we are, over a year later,
2 years.
and we just said, forget it, we're out of here.
And no one has lived in the house for 4 years or longer. I can't remember when the people that were growing marijuana in the house, they were basically, you know, everybody was going after them, and the smells from the marijuana and everything are gone, which, I mean, I know we can't stop anybody from doing that, but growing it and having all of the things that were going on over there, we know that the inside of the house is unrepairable. And we know that's why she's not been able to rent it out since all of that happened.
I had one of our
So-
painters come over because he left his phone in the car, and he asked me, he says, you have a phone I can use? He said, I gotta call my boss. He said, I can't paint over that much mold and mildew. And she just wants it whitewashed.
So that she
He
can
said, that
rent it out
drywall
again.
needs to be torn down, new drywall up and painted. He said, because I guarantee it's in the wall.
all right.
Can you give me the address again, please?
1254 Pomona Court.
Thank you.
Good luck finding it because I don't think it's on the mailbox. But the house is right on the corner of Pomona and Pomona.
Pomona Court. Jack, is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, apart from ordinances, there's always a separate circuit court action that can be brought, which would require a circuit judge to give essentially a search warrant to go into the house, you know, and inspect, and then ask that, you know, something be done to make the house safe and secure. And I vaguely remember the case from back when, but, and I think the lady that claims to live there is a dentist or something.
Ashley, she's a veterinarian.
Veterinarian, yeah.
And she
Yeah.
perjured herself in court saying she lived there because she hadn't lived there.
And
She-
nothing happened with that, and yet we were told, because of her getting the lawyer, they refused to let anybody go in the house, so there the house sits.
So, a district court action has a lot of limitations. The only possible way you can do this, where you can really get some teeth into it, is through circuit court. So instituting a circuit court action, get a court order to have the property inspected, to enter onto the property, and that would necessitate, you know, affidavits and people submitting sworn statements, maybe even testimony, but at least sworn statements to present to a judge to establish some sort of probable cause to go in there and do all this.
Tell you what we'll do is, Julie, can you make a note? We meet every other Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning. We talk about issues within the township, and we do take stuff like this seriously. So what we'll do, Julia, let's just make sure that it's on a topic. We'll put together what we need to prepare for Jack, and we'll see if it's something we can take to circuit court. That's all I
Yes, I
can.
do believe that we did affidavits and.
We got to wrap
we
this
might
up,
have to,
so
yeah.
go ahead, Julia.
Well, my question is, I understand why they're in here. And we went through the whole process before, we finally got the homestead removed, and then the ball got knocked to court.
Right.
Because we kept trying to push the issue that we needed to go inside that home because we know how bad it is. And when it got to court, we were told we couldn't do anything, we can only go outside. This house is so bad, you need to get a search warrant for inside this house. Something needs to be done.
So we already went to court, Jack?
Yes.
We went to court, but you can't go to district court on an ordinance violation and get a search warrant to go inside a house that somebody's claiming to live in.
They don't live in it, and we proved that they don't. That's already been proven.
Well, if everybody wants to go to court when I go to court instead of guessing what went on or didn't go on, I mean, nobody thinks I'm an easygoing attorney. Nobody thinks that. In fact, I get called a lot of nasty names. And so, really, I pushed it as far as I could push it, and district court judges have certain limitations. You can't just do everything you want to do in district court, just like we had the problem with that trailer park. I mean, you can only do so many things in each of the courts. So this district court action, nothing got dropped. It's just that's where the judge left it. I mean, that's as far as the judge could go at that time. She testified under oath. That's what it is. And so I'm telling you, if you want to do something, it's going to necessitate a circuit court action with affidavits, you know, these people swearing to what they know, present it to a judge, and hopefully a judge will say, okay, I'll give you a search warrant that you can send in a health inspector and inspect this thing, and if it needs to be condemned, then do it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to take it serious. Thank you. And I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll make sure it's on the agenda for our Tuesday meeting. I think it's Tuesday after Labor Day, correct?
Then when do you want us to follow up with it after that? Come to the next board meeting?
We'll follow up with you.
Okay.
If we don't, feel free to come back. But Jack, you might want to lend affirmation. I mean, circuit court is not something that you'll be coming back to every meeting for the next 6 months, because that's not something that's going to happen in a week.
Right, it's not
Oh, I
fast.
understand.
That's going to take a long
But
time.
in the meantime, how many affidavits do you want? How many depositions do you want?
Well,
I'll bring the bus
there
to
you-
your office, whatever you want with the neighbors.
I would start collecting.
My suggestion to you is you change the ordinance. It says if you maintain your lawn in the summer, you maintain it in the fall.
well, that's under a state law thing, and really what that law addresses really is weeds. It's not grass, but weeds.
Yeah, noxious weeds.
And so it gets misused a lot, but the law really doesn't address grass. It talks about weeds, so.
Or possibly cut it down to 6 inches so
Well.
that it's at least tolerable.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll talk on Tuesday. All right. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Wendy Domke. I live on Pinewood Trail. First of all, I want to thank all of you for doing what you do. This was probably the most hopeful meeting that I've ever been to, and I've been to a few of them since 2021. And I really appreciate the way that you all take everything into consideration before you vote or table. I'm sure all of you aren't happy because things didn't necessarily get approved or denied, but I'm happy. I want to make a couple of general and then a couple personal comments about your master plan. I've lived in Fenton for about 32 years, and Fenton has grown from becoming a new mini Brighton to now a new mini Novi. So, you know, I think it's really important. I know we have to have tax base and that, you know, on the finance side, I'm a finance person. Everybody wants more business, more residents, but there's also a moral side and just a community side of how big do we really want to get and how high of density do we really want things to be. So with that being said, looking at that master plan, of course, I'm on the Silver Lake Road corridor. So just one simple thing is the infrastructure on east-west roads, we can barely support what we have now. It's treacherous at times. So also, why do we have to have all these different subdivisions everywhere? What happened? I don't know which one of you mentioned about how we don't have very much agricultural anymore. Why can't we have more agricultural? Why can't we still have farms? You know, why does everything have to be developed? Again, I get it from a finance perspective, but this is a small community. It's supposed to be a bedroom community, and it's exploding. So, with that being said, I want to talk on a personal level. The reason I've been coming here since 2021 is a piece of property on Pinewood Trail that was the Hagerman barn. When that was built, it was built as a barn, a beautiful one, albeit, but for thoroughbred horses. It didn't work out. I'm sorry that it didn't, but not every business venture does. The residents shouldn't have to suffer for that. We have been before you with special use permits for an event barn. We've been before you with commercial, it being rezoned. We've been before you with it possibly turning into mixed use. My fear is that we're going to keep coming before you. Now it's supposed to be, and I'm going to ask Mr. Deem this question because I may have misunderstood Mike, but Mr. Deem, I thought, addressed the board and said that there really weren't any changes from the master plan from things that had been zoned agricultural. Is that true? Well, that property on Pinewood is zoned agricultural. On your master plan, the proposal is for medium density residential. Actually, at the planning commissioner meeting, there was a gentleman in my neighborhood that stood up and said, well, could we at least do low density? And that was just glossed over. And I'm thinking, why can't it still be agricultural? Why does there have to be something there other than what that barn was put there for? I'm sorry it's a $1 million piece of property, but you're surrounded by, it's like almost like a horseshoe. We've got Heritage on the east, and Pinewood and Kurtwood and the streets, the cul-de-sacs on the west. We don't want all of that. We don't want it. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough. The first time I collected over 45 petitions, I had an attorney retained. We had real estate developers telling us what our property devaluation was going to be. It was bad. So, Mike, why did you say that you did not make any changes from ag to a rezone? Because right now, isn't that property agricultural?
Yeah, it's agricultural,
But-
but it's always been master planned. Medium density residential, the same as all the surrounding houses. Right? You have R4 properties surrounding the barn. Right? R4 is the high end of medium density residential.
Okay, so when you're saying then you want it to be medium density residential, do you want it to be rezoned for that?
So it's up to the property owner if they want to rezone a property.
So-
Township is, very rarely does a township initiate rezoning.
So why not leave it agricultural?
The zoning is staying agricultural. But if they want to come in with an application for a subdivision,
And they will. So again, sometimes I wonder, can't you just say, this property should stay agricultural? Do you have that right to do that? Or are we going to have to by we, I mean all of our residents, are we going to have to keep coming back every time someone comes with we want a subdivision, or this time we want a farmer's market for a special use permit, or? Mr. Tucker actually made a comment at the planning commissioner meeting, and he said, and I know he didn't mean it to be mean, but he said, I don't feel sorry for you guys because this is the proof that this is working. But what he doesn't realize is that in between all these things, we are all highly stressed. We love our properties. My husband and I have actually talked about possibly moving before something finally gets approved. So can you, as the board, are you able ever to just say, we want this specific piece of property to stay agricultural? It's not even that big. It's like maybe 26 acres total. Do you have that power?
the township is not the ability to prevent someone from making an application. At the end of the day, if a property owner wants to make a new application, they have the right to do so.
So this is going to keep happening then? Is that This is, okay.
Just to answer you honestly,
Well, you're
I
gonna
think
see
if
a
you
lot
owned
of
a
me
piece,
then.
if you owned that piece of property, you'd want to be able to sell it. But going through that process, it still has to go through planning, just like the process did. So you're right. That is owned by someone that is using it. The Niles family is using it right now for a purpose. If he decides to try to use it for another purpose, he can come in, put that application in, go through the planning process. It's no different than your neighbor selling the house next door. It's a piece of property.
I disagree.
Well,
I'm
not
sorry.
trying to disagree with you. I'm just saying that's reality.
A house is a house,
We can't,
but-
I'm not God. I can't say, well, I don't want this to be built on, because probably 90% of the people that had cabins out here 50 years ago didn't want anybody to build on them. They said, you know
Sure.
what, I don't want a barn here, and I don't want a house here, because I want this whole thing as being
Oh, I
my yard.
understand what you're saying, but
And also, don't you think about people that want to have the ability to come to Fenton? This is an amazing community, and to sit there and say, well, we just don't want any development anymore.
I didn't say that.
I want
think
young
that there
people to
needs
be able to
be
afford to come
limits.
here and live.
And our
take advantage
infrastructure-
of raising their
Oh.
children with our schools.
Yeah, but our infrastructure can't handle it. I mean, we simply don't
I'm
have the
not
roads.
pro that. I'm just saying that you have to look at both sides.
No, I understand, and with your comparison to a house, I don't want somebody to build next to me. I have no problem with whoever owns that property selling it as a horse barn. I have no problem. That was what it was built for. But it's a little bit different when you say, well, I don't want, somebody to build a house next to me versus I don't want someone to have a commercial boat arena. I don't want to have a wedding barn.
It'll never happen. I don't think it'll happen.
I'm
but,
going to
well,
hold you to that.
a wedding barn can,
Wedding
under
barn,
ag.
Agricultural use, under an agricultural.
So
land.
that could turn into a big wedding venue.
And we
With
hired
ag.
attorneys the last time, and it got
Well,
not, yes, we did,
it was not denied. The applicant withdrew their application.
about an hour before this meeting. Correct, he did.
I'm not fighting against you. I'm
No,
just saying
I know
that,
you're not,
I'm
but-
just saying that it is owned by that piece of property. If somebody came into a developer came in and said, I want to do low-density residential, and I want to build homes, what's the difference between your home and where he wants to build homes?
Homes is fine, Mr. Leary. I don't have a problem with low-density homes. I get it. I have a problem with that big, I don't know how many square foot it is.
I've been out there a
Okay, it's
lot.
beautiful. I've been in it.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I have a problem with that being turned into something commercial, or you don't want an event barn where we can hear where T-Bones used to be, let alone something that's just right across the street.
I'm with
So-
you 100%. I'd love to see it a barn myself.
I mean, I appreciate your honesty, so at least I know that I understand you can't do anything about it, but
I think what you're doing is, not to agree with Tucker, but what you're doing is how the process works. If you don't want somebody,
get it.
something to happen next to you, I mean, the barn was built, it's on ag. If you don't want somebody, go to these meetings, do what you have
Oh,
to do.
I
And I
have
know
been.
it would be stressful for me too, because I wouldn't want an event
I
barn
have
out there
been.
either. But that's how the process works.
okay. Well, I appreciate
I
it.
do have a question for you. What
Sure.
do you consider the density of your subdivision?
The one I'm in?
Yes.
Well, all I know is my property is like 1.6 acres, and I know my neighbor to the north is about the same. I think it's probably less as you go towards Silver Lake, but I don't know.
But how do you feel? Well, how would you classify it?
You mean whether I like it, or do I think it's
Do you
medium?
consider it low density? If someone wanted to put.
It's probably between low and medium, because I don't know, like, if medium density means like the acreage of per lot. If you could tell me that, I can tell you yes or no.
Yeah, so the medium density, right, by right would be an acre lot. Now, there's ways to reduce the lot size by providing open space, but by right it'd be an acre.
An acre lot is fine.
That's what it is in the master
And what is a
plan.
low? What is a low density?
It's over 2 acres.
Okay. I mean, everybody probably like that better, but yeah, a medium density, a 1 acre lot is fine. Like I said, we're all just more concerned about that big structure. So, thank you for your time.
No,
I know I've
absolutely.
been up
Thank you
here
for
before,
coming.
and I'll take it back to all my neighbors that weren't here. And again, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for all you do.
I think you should feel safe, as much as you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else that is here that would like to address the board? Do you want to let her, yes ma'am, come on up.
Well, I'll be brief.
I'm only giving you 2 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Minute and a half.
My name's Roberta Hopkins. I live on Swan Beach. I just want to address and question this short-term rental. You said, let's not do 3 days, let's do 5 days. Did I miss in that plan how often these rentals could take place?
The turns.
Well, I'm thinking, I have a fairly large home. We can pack it full of people because we have, with family. What's to prevent me then from having short-term, maybe weekly rentals? How many times? I'm going to stay with my son who lives in a nearby, community, and doing that all the time. Did I hear anything in that plan that prevented that or whatever?
Nope.
That's the problem,
That's all I have to say.
No, thank you very much.
That does not address, and that's why.
I'm sorry,
It doesn't address that. No, people are gonna do that.
No, that's.
Well, our zoning administrator's sitting here, and he's going to take everything, he was taking notes, I can guarantee you, and he's going to go back to the planning commission.
And we have planning commissioners here too, so.
Yeah, oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Casey?
I will be brief.
Casey, a quick question.
Yes, sir.
After tonight, do you really want to be a judge?
I was thinking about that as you all are debating these ideas. Yes, I still do. But what I wanted to talk to you about this evening, I was here in September, if you may recall, to announce that I was running. And since then, I've gathered over 750 signatures, and I've already hit close to 800 doors in around this near community here. As you're aware, there's still a plan to close our local courts. And not a single person in all of those over 1,400 encounters that I've had has said or thought that it's a good idea to close our local courts. So I wanted to report that to you because I think it's important, but I also want to implore you as a board and as individuals on the board who have a lot of clout in the community to go and implore our county commissioners to abandon this terrible idea. Nobody wants it, except for the people, I believe, in Flint who think this is going to help them. And I've been adamant since the start. I said those words when I was here at first. I think there's a few of my competitors who may be less than full-hearted in their support for the idea of keeping our local courts open. But I'm adamant about it. We have to do it. It's where the rubber meets the road, where people meet the court system in their local district courts, where they're going to take care of those local issues and those things that are close to them. And that's, again, you asked me why I still want to be a judge. It's because of that. Because a district court judge is where the rubber meets the road, where I will have the greatest impact, I believe, as a judge in a courtroom. Where I'm going to meet with those people who maybe only one time in their life ever go to a courtroom. And I want them to feel that they've had access to the system and the opportunity to be heard in their cases. But we can't do that without the local courts. And the plan to move it up there, which there really isn't a plan. We don't have a place to put them. I think you've all probably heard all this, so I don't want to go into too much depth. Probably I've talked about it the last time I was here. But I do know that there was a meeting recently with the judges. I don't know what the results of that was, but I'm hopeful that they're making progress. And if in my belief, if the Court of Appeals follows the law, this goes to the mat. The local courts will remain open, but we'll see what happens. There's lots to happen before that. But I appreciate you guys listening to me. I took the time. I was out hitting doors. Took the time to come here tonight. I'm kind of glad I did it. It's a lot cooler in here than it is out hitting the doors, and I probably haven't sweat as much. But I'll be back out on the doors. I want to get as many as I can before the election. So thank you very much.
Good luck.
All right,
Casey.
Good luck, Keith.
Good luck. All right, anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Just approach the microphone, please.
I don't want to take up any more time. I
You can still come up, it's fine. Oh, I'm sorry.
I also live on Pinewood Trail, and I want to thank the board members that have the concern about the Silver Lake Road corridor. It is becoming very dangerous. I waited 15 minutes to pull out of my street the other night, and I know that there are more plans to develop, maybe possibly residential homes down next to the assisted living there, which I understand, but it's scary. I just don't know how much more that, and I know it's a county road, and you don't have any power, but please consider that. I've lived there for 20 years. My husband and I invested our life savings to move to Fenton and found the perfect piece of property from Lee and Nancy Churchill. So that's why we moved to Fenton. And I thank Mr. Krug for bringing that to my attention tonight, that you feel the same way, that keeping our community from turning into a Novi or a Brighton. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that is present tonight that would like to address the board on an agenda or a non-agenda item? Come on, Gary, I thought you were coming up. I've seen the look. I thought you were coming. All right. All right. I will now.
Oh, here he comes.
All right. Come on up, sir.
Come on up.
Okay, I'm not familiar with dealing with
Your name, sir?
politics and stuff. My name is Don Alwell. I live at 15014 Pinewood Trail, which is right on the southwest corner of that intersection of Silver Lake Road, Pinewood Trail. Kurtwood is on the backside of my house. We're talking about the horse farm, which is directly across the street from us, and donkeys, all of that. That is, the pond down there is actually a swamp that cannot be developed from what I understand, because it's classified as such. There was conversation last time I came in here about how many properties, lots or whatever, could be developed on that horse farm land if it was passed to be able to have houses built over there. Could anybody clarify what that is? How many would there be if that was to happen? Because the traffic is already ridiculous, and if they put any more houses down there, it's like living in right downtown Flint. Okay.
You can do the math. It's
Well,
under.
it's not straight math, right? Because-
Yeah, right. Because you got roads. You've
Well,
got.
and, you know, whether or not, you know, how much are wetlands, right? You know, the property is
39 acres.
26?
Okay.
So, look, you figure a unit an acre. So, you know, you can finagle some open space, whatnot, a unit an acre. So if it's 26 acres, 26 units, that's probably a good starting number. You know, then there's potential for more or less depending on site conditions, is it open space development, if sewer is provided.
There's already sewer down Pinewood Trail.
Right.
So to answer your question, around 20, but it could vary.
Is that part of the 20-some acres?
So again, right?
The wetland.
Unless I have like a plan to look at, I can't give you a
Well,
maximum.
you guys had the map up here before, but I couldn't make it out from back here.
Well,
All right,
so-
exactly what you're talking
So the
about.
plan that was presented last time was just a concept plan, right? That wasn't produced by architects, wasn't produced by engineers.
But somebody has considered or confronted you about being able to turn that over to residential.
No.
That's the way I understood it when I came to the other meeting, when
No, they were
talked
talking about
that discussion.
utilizing the barn, having an office building.
That was on there too. That's another agenda, you know, the bridal barn and all that stuff. that would become a public affair. There's so much traffic up and down our little road already that that would absolutely destroy our livable area, because we wouldn't have any peace and quiet in a residential area if that was allowed to happen. Because it's, who cares if they're going over there for a wedding? They're gonna party, okay? There's no doubt about it. And I don't want all that music and all that blowing all the way across the street and interrupting me at night, especially can't sleep, okay? So I was just wondering if there has been any consideration or anybody submit, other than boating storage and all that other stuff, but going residential, and how many places could go in there if this was supposed to be confronted.
Our Administrator Deem said no one has approached the township about residences at this point.
But somebody has did determine how many places could go in there. That was brought up before.
So that, again, right, what was mentioned was just back of the envelope, right? X amount of acres, a unit per acre, and that's the number that was thrown out. Not that that's the number that they can get. Because again, right, when you look at site conditions, you don't get credit for work items, right? They have to provide roads, right? Are they going to do an open space? And if they provide, how much open space depends on what kind of density they can get. So it's not just, I have 26 acres, I get 26 lots. There's a lot more that goes into it. So the number that was thrown out was just a unit per acre, you know, as a starting point for discussion.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to kind of wrap. I'm not trying to get you to sit down. Just,
That's
you know
fine.
what?
I really
We know,
appreciate your
and just
time.
remember, just stay on top of it because it's got to go through planning. Anything that anybody wants to request for that property's got to go through planning.
And you guys have done a great job.
Thank you.
I can't.
So have you. You're doing what you're supposed to do, is participate. Anybody else here that is present? Hearing none, I will move on to Zoom. If anybody would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items that is visiting us via Zoom, please unmute your mic. Anybody?
Mark Lemon says no, thank you.
Anybody, Cade?
No, Mark says no, thank you. I don't see it.
All right, I am going to close public comment. If there's nobody that is on Zoom that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items. All right, at this time, I would like to go into closed session, so I need a motion to recess the open meeting to convene a closed session to discuss pending litigation.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Contract,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Lorraine
Yes.
and Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, we'll take a 2-minute break while everybody leaves, and we are going to be going into closed session.
Mike?